This webinar is titled Persistence Wins, the right marketing cadence makes all the difference. And one thing I want to say right off the bat is that when I wrote this topic and I wrote kind of the leading, this is what you're going to learn in this webinar, all that's covered here. But what is fascinating when you start, whether it's writing, crafting a webinar, or when you write a blog post, or you're just coming up with any idea that you want to share with the world, what often happens is during your discovery journey there and you're creating it, you kind of discover some other things like, oh, I probably should share this information too. So there's kind of some bonus information in here, I think, that you're going to find really valuable. So I hope you do get a lot out of it. Additionally, one other thing that you'll notice is slightly different about this webinar if you've attended previous webinars is there's going to be more slides that are slightly more text heavy in this webinar, and that's by design. What has happened is frequently after the webinars, we get a lot of requests. Grant on the Pearl Capital team gets a lot of requests as well, saying, "Hey, please send me the PDF of the PowerPoint deck that was presented." And I think what's the challenge there is sometimes people get those in a vacuum and they didn't attend the webinar. And what ends up happening is they're taking these slide decks that are a little more graphic heavy, and they're running with them and they don't necessarily know how to implement things. So I put a little extra text in here. But as always, if there's an area where you need clarification, or if you're looking at a slide when you do get the slide deck afterwards and you're like, hey, what do you mean by this? Or can you help me with some extra information there? Please do reach out. By way of introduction, as always, my name is Mike Langford. I mentioned that right at the beginning, but I run a company called finservMarketing. It's a digital marketing agency that services the financial services segment, and also the technology segment that sells into the financial services industry. So we work with a variety of different companies. Pearl Capital is one. I've been working with Pearl now for about a year. Love the team there. I love what they're doing for the ISO community. As I say that every webinar here, if you've attended before, but I really do. I think it can't be overstated that you've got a team of people that are committed to the success of their business partners, and they're willing to invest and help everybody improve their business, and they're actively doing that in everything that they do. And I'm gonna shine a little bit of light on some of the things that they're doing, their marketing cadence to you, what goes behind the scenes there, with their permission, of course. So how they're reaching out to you and how they're interacting with the ISO community, and I think you'll find that valuable as well, because of, really they're trying to bring in deals just like you are. They're just a different level away. They're not going to the end merchant, they're going to you. As always, please do connect and follow and interact with Pearl Capital on whatever social media channel you prefer, or all of them, right? Again, Pearl is active on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, also on Instagram, and you can find them on YouTube as well. They do have a YouTube channel, so every time we do one of these webinars, within a few days, the video of the recording finds itself up on YouTube. If you want to tweet or post stuff while you're listening to this podcast, or if you want to share it, webinar, if you want to share this out with your community, use the hashtag Pearl Persistence. We are talking about persistence here today. And it really is just sticking with it, but sticking with it in the right way, I guess is the way that I would put it. Like, continue to chase your merchants, your business, but do it in a way so that you're not seen as a pest, right? And that's always that fine line. All these social media accounts, by the way, managed by Grant Pastor. You can connect with Grant anytime. He's very responsive. All right, so let's dive in. Why persistence wins. You remember, when you're a kid, whether it's playing sports or an instrument or anything else in the world, we're always taught, stick with it, persistence, a little bit of effort, consistently, over time, leads to really big results. We see that, that what they call it, the eighth wonder of the world, compound interest, right? And it's true of anything. It's not just compound interest in money, that if you do a little bit consistently, the result typically ends up being really, really amazing over time. And that is true for marketing communications, for reaching out to your target market. And we spent a lot of time talking about that here on this series, but reaching out to the people you're trying to reach, whatever your merchant niche is, and doing so consistently will bring in new business. Now, if we do some analysis, do some research out there, and I've seen numbers similar to this across every industry. As you know, I work a lot with the investment side of the financial services industry. So financial advisors, oftentimes insurance agents who also sell financial products or investment-like products. And what you'll hear is, existing customers need to be touched, need some sort of touch from them at least 20 times a year to feel like they're being valued. Well, if an existing customer needs lots of touches every year to feel like, hey, you're treating me right and I want to stick with you for a long term, well, what does it take on the front end to go ahead and close business? Well, in doing some analysis and looking at the Online Marketing Institute, they did a really good job on this. They've got a multi piece, like a multi-post piece on this, where they've shared that it takes 7 to 13 plus touches to generate a qualified lead. Think about that concept. That is the top of the funnel, and that's where you are in your business, right? Most ISOs are out there focusing almost exclusively on the top of the funnel. How do I get leads that are qualified, right? And that is the bane of all of our existence, right? Winning new businesses. All right, it's fine. I can get in front of people. I can get a list of people, but are they qualified? And not only are they qualified, are they ready to rock, right? Do they need what I have? Are they ready to do business? We talked about that previously with, that not everybody's in the market for your business right now, but eventually they will be, right? Well, that eventually can seem like a long time. So what can we do to improve our odds of eventually, when they do need the service, it's us. So in the case of your business, when somebody needs an MCA or some other financial form of financing that you provide, well, man, don't let them forget you, right? Make sure that you're the number one and frankly only person they're going to call. So I know that many organizations are building on a sales organization, but this is a marketing task, right? Because we can't have a salesperson calling 7 to 13 times over and over and over and over again. Are you interested now? Are you interested now? Are you interested now? And I know that actually may happen in some shops, but what we really want is we want marketing efforts to do some of that heavy lifting and deliver those qualified leads to the sales team. So the problem is, as I see it, and maybe you'll agree, hopefully you'll agree, is that most merchants are not getting enough touches from ISOs or enough high quality touches, right? Most merchants are getting a call because the ISO got a list. The ISO's picking up the phone and dialing that person and introducing themselves and kind of trying to find out on the fly, do you need an MCA today, right? And if the answer is no, or if they can't get through to the person, it's on to the next one, on to the next one, and on to the next one. That's traditional sales for time immemorial, right? I got a list, I'm dialing for dollars, here I go. I've got a list, I'm throwing it in an email marketing solution, and I'm just gonna hammer them with emails. At some point in time, law of large numbers says I will get deals, right? But maybe there's let's call it an improved approach that we could take, an augmented approach to that instead of it just being heavy, bang, 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 I'm gonna call you, I'm gonna email you, I'm gonna call you, I'm gonna email you with marketing, obviously like sales offers, maybe we can have higher quality touches. And I think the higher quality touch goes a long way. And we'll dive into more of that later. So one of the great things about working with Pearl that I've discovered over the year of our engagement so far is because they're one of the premier providers of MCA in the industry, and because the team there is really, really connected with what else is going on in the world of MCA and alternative financing offerings, they have lots of cool data. And this is some summarized data that we were able to pull together that's pretty much consistent across the industry to the best of our knowledge. So it's really interesting to me. So this is kind of two elements of the funnel, and I'll illustrate what the funnel looks like in a minute. But 34% of the deals, so about a third of the deals, and this is for a top 25%-ish ISOs out there, 35% of the deals that are submitted by top tier ISOs receive an offer. So that means that 2/3 of the deals that are submitted don't. So that gets back to that original concept there of qualification, of something was wrong there in the qualification process, because by the time the sales team gets their hand on that lead, packages, it has a conversation with the merchant, and then packages that conversation into something that they're trying to shop around to a Pearl Capital or another firm, there should be some high level of confidence that this deal is going to get done, right? But instead, we're using what I'm seeing, at least, we have like baseball numbers, right? And if you ever follow baseball, a Hall of Fame hitter hits 300, hits 30%, basically, gets on base, about 30%, 30 to 40% if you include walks and so forth. So that's a Hall of Famer, right? It's great. And again, if we're working with law of large numbers, kick butt. That's great. I mean, if I'm going to be sending thousands of them, if 34% of them are working, awesome. On the downside, it gets even finer. And there's a couple of reasons here, and we'll go into those in a minute. 14% of those deals, those offers are funded. So what happens, right? So the funnel gets smaller down at the end, and that's true. You see that across every business. So what does this tell us? So for every 1,000 MCA deals that are submitted to a funder, 340 of them are getting offers, and 48 are getting funded. Now, that could vary, and maybe if we were able to get the absolute funded deal to offer to deal submitted across the entire industry, maybe it's higher. There might be a variety of reasons, right? The offer might be rescinded, or the merchant may say, hey, I don't need that anymore. But when I think about if this is what a typical funder looks like, what does it tell us? Well, that not all deals are coming through to the funder, even from the top tier ISOs are qualified. We talked about that on the previous page. Sometimes the funder misses the opportunity, right? So there are going to be times when you send a deal to Pearl or another funder, and they just one wins. Let's just put it that way. One wins and the other loses. I'm sure that happens in your business frequently. Hopefully it doesn't happen with Pearl. Hopefully Pearl always wins and you guys are always happy. But I think mostly the data tells us that we have to have a truckload of leads to get a deal done. I think that's what it says. Like, listen, if you're not getting a huge amount of leads, your chances of success are relatively low. Or maybe we need to get higher quality. You know, if you've been on these webinars before, you know that my kids play basketball, and we're always on them about higher percentage shots. Take higher percentage shots. Don't take that shot from way out beyond the arc if you don't have the strength to hoist up a good quality 3-point shot. Don't take that contested shot. Take the higher quality shot. I think, honestly, and this is, you know, when I look at the entire financial industry, that's where the reality lies. The higher the quality of the lead, when it enters the sales funnel, the much more likely of success. So you, as an ISO, spend less of your time on crap deals or deals that have a low likelihood of success, and more of your time working with ones that we know are likely to be funded. So what goes into some of the activity from a marketing perspective? Well, just to give you a little bit of behind the curtain sneaky peek at Pearl Capital and what they do, how they're interacting with you and other ISOs and their audience, I thought this is some really interesting information, right? That funding an MCA deal requires 5 to 8 phone calls and 5 to 10 emails. So we add that up, it could be like 18, 20-ish, right? Or let's call it 10 to 20 individual pieces of communication that go back and forth between the ISO, the merchant, and then funding partners, right? You know, Pearl Capital gets money from sources, and then they're talking about risk pools and all that type of stuff, all the big messiness that goes on in terms of like putting together a pool of money that goes into funding the MCA deals you send over. So there's a lot of interaction going on there that's required. So the top of the funnel is, how do we talk to everybody to get good qualified leads in and then get them into the sales team? But even when it's there, it takes a lot of interaction, and that hints at why some deals may not make it all the way through. So anything we can do to improve the quality at the top is best. But then we look at some of the ongoing digital marketing activity. How is Pearl filling their funnel at the top, right? Well, they're doing email and social and paid marketing. They're also involved on things like the Debanked website. They're interactive there and so forth. You've seen them, I'm sure, in some of those communities. But on average, when we talk about some of the two highly controllable marketing endeavors that they use, email, they send out weekly emails with updates and so forth. And if you're not on that webinar, that distribution, please do get on it. Monthly newsletter, occasional bonus updates and so forth. You're seeing updates about these webinars. You're seeing the newsletter article that I've been writing on a monthly basis that I hope you're getting. And if you're not, please do get it and read it. What's interesting to me is, again, this speaks to it, 45% open rate. And that's really, really good, by the way. For any digital marketing email campaign, a 45% open rate is phenomenal. Usually if you can get above 20, you're doing really well. But what that means is, we've talked about this before with our niche marketing being very targeted. They've got a very well targeted audience. They know who you are, right? They're not sending a newsletter to just anybody, right? They're sending it to a specific group of people that they know a lot about. They're sending high quality information that they know you're interested in, so that you're going to see a higher open rate. They're very active on social, so 1 to 2 posts per week. They also have continuous sponsored posts and paid posts going out there. So it's very likely that if you ever have any interaction with Pearl on a social network, you're going to see their stuff in your feed some way along the way. Okay, so let's talk about structuring your funnel to consistently win business, right? So what can we do? Some of the things that we can change to do that. And I kind of broke it down that there's some pieces to the funnel, the contributions to it, if you want to call it that. So I know a lot of you are in New York, so I wouldn't be surprised if people just start dropping off the line. If people hate the Patriots, that's fine. I grew up in the Boston area, and you know what? I hated the Patriots until the Brady era, and because they stunk when I was a kid. they were terrible. So I was a Niners fan, and I liked the Cowboys for a little while there. And most of New England, by the way, was not a Patriot. Well, they're not Patriots fans until they started winning. It'll be interesting to see when the Brady-Belichick era is over, if they're still Patriots fans. But it's hard to argue with the Patriots and the Spurs. These two organizations, by the way, in my 2 states, right? Originally from the Boston area, now I live here in Austin. So I always call dual citizenship has its privileges. I can root for Texas teams and the Boston area teams. But what's remarkable about both of these teams is that they're going on with Patriots, I just think finished 14 seasons in a row of 10 wins or more. And then the Spurs are something ridiculous, like 20 years of 50 win plus in an 82 game season, 50 wins plus for almost 20 years in a row. And so that level of consistency is just breathtaking, right? So what are some commonalities in their systems for producing wins? How do we equate that, or how do we use that analogy in the ISO business? And I think it's 3 things, right? They have a system, and everybody calls Brady a system quarterback, right? There's roles. Know your role and be a star at your role. Like, what are the roles within your funnel? What are the things that you want to do? Knowing what they are and what they're supposed to do is really important. And then there's consistency, right? Go up there. It's not a mystery what you're going to get on game day. Well, for you, it's not a mystery. Like, once this funnel is running and it's marketing driven, it shouldn't be a mystery that you're getting X amount of leads based on, whatever the input was. So if you're putting in 100 contacts in there, that we should be receiving, whatever, even if it's 2 leads, consistently for every two contacts I put in there, I'm getting 2 high qualified leads. And if we know that, let's churn that engine, baby. Okay, so the traditional ISO system, and your shop may be different than this, but based on what I've experienced and kind of the interviews I've had with ISOs and with the team at Pearl in terms of like, what is it like for the ISOs out in the world, most shops are sales driven. Okay, so this is a Glengarry Glen Ross. If you haven't seen the movie, which by the way, I've never seen the movie in its entirety, and I think I have to do. I mean, everybody in the world is in it. Kevin Spacey, Alec Baldwin, tons of people. So I'm going to have to watch it. But there's a famous scene, and this is a screen capture from that scene of, coffee is for closers. And it's a really rough scene. If you're a salesperson and you've ever had a sales manager come in and just rip into you guys, and the testosterone's going up out of the roof there, it's not good, right? It just doesn't feel good, right? And some shops are run like that. I'm not saying that ISO shops are run like that, but by and large, most teams it's a sales organization. Hey, listen, we're if you're an ISO, you're on commission, you're hunting, you're moving quick. All right. The negative of that is, and chances are you've experienced this pain, is that you spend an inordinate amount of your time, and your team spends an inordinate amount of time calling on suspects, right, that are unqualified. They have not been truly pre-qualified. Even if you have acquired a pretty good list of people that have used an MCA or some other alternative funding in the past, and so you have some data on them, it's just, it's a grind, right? And so what can we do to make it less of a grind? So your ideal system would be, what comes before that sales pitch? The people you're calling have an awareness of your ISO. Really simple. Because we've all been there. We pick up the phone and we effectively cold call somebody, and they have no idea who you are. So breaking through hey, here's who I am and here's what I do, and I can help you, and getting to the point of that the person even knows who you are and wants to hear from you is rough. And so anything that marketing can do to break the ice a little bit, warm that lead up before us, is awesome. Opt-in and engagement is usually the key to making them want to hear from you, right? So they're aware of you, they heard of you, so it's not a mystery when you call and say, hey, I'm from finservMarketing, and they're like, I've never heard of finservMarketing. By the way, there's a reason why finservMarketing is the name, right? It's financial services marketing, and people who've never heard, have never heard of my firm, when I talk to them, will say, I've heard of you. Opt-in and engagement, right, this is a touchy subject, because I know many ISOs are working on purchased lists, and that's a reality of the industry. And when you're purchasing a list and you're loading a purchase list into your email system, or you're calling it, the reality is we are making unsolicited sales calls, unrequested sales calls. In other words, many people will say we're spamming, right? Most email marketing providers would qualify as a spam if you're uploading a purchase list and so forth. But it is a reality of the business. And I don't truly see a problem with it. What I see is we need to find a way to move those people from purchased, anonymous, no interaction humans into those who have opted in to our offer or to our communication, so that they want to hear from us. And that's a big step. And many firms never make that leap, but it can be done. It can be done relatively easy. And once people are opted in, there's a different interaction, right? They want to hear from you. They've raised their hand and said, oh yeah, please send me more information. I want to hear more from you. I'm on your list. I'm following you on social. This is awesome, right? Maybe I'm not saying this is awesome, but now you've got a friend, if you want to call it that. Lastly, okay, marketing-driven qualified leads. We're going to use marketing efforts to drive people into that funnel versus it constantly being calls and sales-related emails. Let's drive people into a place where they're effectively, now they've raised their hand saying, hey, Kay, I'm willing to subscribe to you, but now I'm willing to also hear more about your offer. Okay. So roles and responsibilities in the marketing system. So your list has a big role, right? Your list of merchants it's the foundation, right? You're going to use that list to develop a system of persistent engagement. As I mentioned, the first thing we need to do is get people to opt in. And as I mentioned at the outset, and if you haven't read this blog post, by the way, this is a little quote from the blog post or the newsletter article that I wrote that Pearl sent out. So it's on the Pearl website. How to acquire and refine a high quality list of leads. It really comes down to that concept. Like, most of us are not going to win business on the first call that a sales member makes. It's the reality, right? It happens, but it doesn't happen often. But it can happen with more regularity, that first call, if the person said, hey, I want to hear from you. Like, please call me. Or they were on the website and they filled out a form or something of that nature. Or they clicked and signed up for a webinar and they've attended something, and now there's another CTA that brings them along the way. The most important thing we need to do, though, is keep in touch with them, to get them to want to hear from us, to get them to open our emails, to get them to subscribe to our social media feeds so that they see our stuff. So that list is a feeder, though, and there's mechanisms to get people in there. So if we talk about the roles in for the other marketing channels you have, right? So you get your list, that's a foundation. So the first thing I always do is I tell people is take that list and you need to upload it to all the social media channels, right? Every single channel will allow you to make targeted marketing lists, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, you name it. If you've got a list of thousands of people, thousands of merchants with their phone, address, email, that's enough. Upload it, and they'll do their little algorithmic stuff behind the scenes. And before you know it, some subset of that list will be in your social feed for marketing purposes. It's awesome, right? Because now we can use that to make sure that we're showing up and they're getting familiarity, right? So when we're posting to social and we promote that post, they're seeing your ISO brand in their feed, and it becomes that awareness. It kind of starts to tick that first box. And then if we can use that to drive them to someplace, we can start getting opt-in, okay? So secondary channels, in order to get opt-in and paid, social media, IRL. This is one that's overlooked, and we're not going to cover it in too much depth here, but I want you to think about it because I see it used so effectively for other segments of the financial services industry. And I haven't seen it, now you can correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't seen it used in the ISO community yet. I don't know, I mean, maybe there are certain firms that are using it really well, but the in real life interaction, and I think a webinar qualifies, to be quite honest with you, something online, but the getting people in a room, real world room or an online room, changes a dynamic. Somebody's taken time out of their day, specifically with the intent of attending and listening and consuming information. It adds a deep level of connection that is otherwise difficult to achieve with any other channel. And so using that, and you can do that in a lot of different ways. So if you're in New York and you find yourself getting a lot of merchants in New York, right? Why not host something in real life? Rent a conference room in a hotel for a quick little gathering or a happy hour or something of that nature. If you have ISOs that are distributed across the country, same thing, right? Ask if you can present at a local community event. Talk to them about what a merchant cash advance is and how it's really good for businesses, okay? Or set up a webinar to teach people about it. So give that a whirl. Google Ads, remarketing, and other display ads, those are all components of your secondary channels. And the reason why I break these out is you've got your primary stuff, like everybody's got a list. Every ISO has a list. That does not make your firm unique. But how you're using these secondary channels to make sure that you're feeding your marketing engine is really important. Okay, so channel use cases. Let's dive in there. My favorite, Walter White. Everybody knows I'm a Breaking Bad fan, but the awareness concept that we talked about a little earlier. And if you haven't watched Breaking Bad, there's a scene in there where so Walter White is ends up being a drug dealer, right? He's basically making meth, cooking meth, and selling it. But he's got a name, Heisenberg, that everybody knows him by. That's his street name. And there's a scene in there, and they're in the desert, and he's basically telling his new guy that he's going to be doing business with, he wants him to say his name because he doesn't know who he is, and he's sort of, and they ends up saying Heisenberg. So it's a very famous scene. We want that for you, not the drug dealing part, not the cooking meth part, but we want, and we in our last webinar was on branding. We want people to know your ISO. We want them to have a familiarity with you because it opens the door. It's no longer some stranger calling me trying to get me to talk about how he can help me with my financing. Instead, it's Bob, it's Joe, whoever it is, it's calling, and it's from this company, right? So it's Mike from finservMarketing, and there's an awareness and a comfort level. So as I said, the pro tip down here is assume merchants know little to nothing about you. MCA or alternative lending options. Educate them. It kind of goes in what I was talking about on the previous slide. Educate them. Let them know who you are, what you got going on. You can put the offers in front of them. That's wonderful. Hey, I can get you $50,000 within a couple of days if your business needs it. That's all good. That is, you're hitting people with the need, the pain point. But there's also the element of like, let's feed that engine first, so that when they have a need, they know who to click, right? So using certain channels like email, social, direct mail, and those in IRL speaking events, those are really good for generating awareness. That people have heard of you, they now have your business card, they now have you in their contacts, they see you in the social stream, they know they've seen you, right? Similar to if I said to you, where are you going to buy a mattress? I should have put this in the slide. Have you noticed that there's a mattress firm on every single corner in America now? Like really, there's mattress firm, and across there's I don't know, there's Denver mattress and yada yada yada. There's mattress stores on every single corner. And now you've got, even in your social media feed, you've got Casper mattresses, Lisa mattresses, and all the like. They're on an awareness campaign. I mean, how many mattresses can a mattress store possibly sell, right? But because they're putting, first of all, the stores are relatively cheap, it really is an awareness. It is a branding endeavor to get people to know who they are. And the same here is going to be true for your shop. Marketing should be letting people know who you are all the time. Getting them to opt in, right? So similar channels, right? Email, social. Here's where I would use paid, by the way. I know a lot of people use paid to drive to transaction, like click here to buy, click here to get money, right? There's also another paid option to use there, which is click here to learn more. And learn more tends to get way more clicks and conversions than buy, right? Because again, there's a timing element to it. Click here to buy is I have to have the need. So in your case, click here to get money, I guess an example, right? Click here to get money, I have to have a need to get money now, versus click here to learn about financing options for small businesses or merchants, however you want to use, whatever language you want to use. Click here to learn more about this. Click here, and whatever that is, it doesn't even have to be about financing. Getting somebody in to opt in to interact with you is so powerful and so meaningful. So look to use those things there. Anything you can get people in the door. Think of marketing as bringing people to your storefront. The sales team's inside the storefront, right, waiting to sell, waiting to convert. But as soon as that person opens the door, they're there. And that's what marketing is supposed to do. So you want merchants to choose to subscribe to any of the channels you have available to you, okay? So the right marketing cadence. This is the big question. And this is where I started out at the beginning when thinking about this webinar, like this is what we're going to talk about. It's the only thing we're going to be talking about, because I get this question all the time. How often should I send email? What types of emails should I send and when? How often should I send social media posts? I get that one, like that's a once or twice a week question. How often do I send social media posts? What's the right time of day to send a social media post? So those questions are reality. Here again, the real thing is we want to send stuff often enough. We want to interact often enough so that we're always top of mind. And we want to send things in a way so that people know what you do. It sounds basic, right? But if you wanted to know if you were going to buy some form of insurance, if you were going to go for investing or a mattress, you would have an idea where to go. We want the merchants that are on your list that you're looking to have as clients, we want them to know that you're the place to call. It's really that simple. So when to send email? So let's start with email, because email it's the killer app, right? Email is infinitely more powerful than the phone nowadays, because unfortunately, most of us are down to like just using. I don't have a home phone anymore. My wife and I both have iPhones, and so does my son, right? So we're iPhone exclusively in the house, no landline. And if a number comes through that I don't recognize, I don't answer it, right? And I get ISO calls every once in a while. I'm not sure if it's any of you, but I get calls every once in a while on my phone. Hey, we help with small businesses with funding. We help with, whatever, blah, 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 financing. So I've gotten those calls, and they go right to voicemail, right? So how do I break through? Well, email is a huge way. Everybody gets email. Everybody, especially if they have a business email, they check it. They need to check it. All right. So when's the best time to send it? The weekend rules. And it sounds silly because I know most ISOs aren't working on the weekend. Funders like Pearl aren't funding on the weekend. That doesn't mean we shouldn't be interacting with people on the weekend. Just because they can't click buy now on the weekend and have anything actually happen on the weekend other than, schedule an interaction to start happening on Monday, does not mean we shouldn't try to interact with people on the weekend, because they have more free time on the weekend, unless they're like a retail shop that's open 7 days a week. They have, his data shows, and this Propeller CRM research that you see down here in the corner, this research study they did shows, and I've seen this in my own experience. My experience has been Sunday morning when I'm trying to reach C-suite people, so chief executives of big companies. Sunday morning rules, because they're all just kind of clearing out, they're going through, and that's when they're starting to think about their week ahead and so forth. For some reason, Sunday morning is cool, but in this study, they show that Saturdays are the best day. Right? People are opening email. In fact, twice as likely to open your email and click through on Saturday as they are on Tuesday. So think about that. Consider using the weekends. The morning, I said sort of here. For some reason, people are clicking their emails first thing in the morning. I do the same thing. I get up in the morning, right? I'm getting the kids ready to go do whatever they got to do or whatever. Or I'm eating breakfast, having my first cup of coffee. I'm opening up email. I'm opening up social. I think most people are doing that. I think that's a pretty much consistent thing for the people that you want to reach. Everybody's grabbing their phone first thing in the morning and kind of waking up with going through it, right? You want to make sure that your email is in their inbox first thing in the morning, okay? Really important caveat here, local time. Local time. Most email providers, I don't care if it's a simple one like MailChimp or you're using SendGrid or you're using Marketo, go on down the list of all the ones that you're using. Most of them have a smart send option, smart delivery option that will put it in local time. And that's really, really key, because if you're Eastern time and you're trying to get something, for me to look at something in the morning, your morning is different than my morning. I'm sleeping when you're awake, right? If I'm in Pacific time, I'm in, here in Central time, I'm an hour away. So make sure you're cognizant of that. Select that option there. One of the little kind of fine prints they had was that emails delivered around midnight do best. I guess people, I'm not one of them. I typically start at the top of my inbox and work my way down, but some people scroll down to see the first one and then work their way back up, kind of first in, first out type of concept. So do keep that in mind, that if you send it around, have it delivered around midnight their time, they're going to see it first thing in the morning. How often to send email? So this is a little different, right? Monthly to weekly, right? So in most cases, I would say weekly, to be honest with you, and it depends. So look at how Pearl is using theirs. It's not the same email on their monthly newsletter as it is in their weekly update email. So there's different types of emails. You should include a call to action, absolutely, in every single email that you're sending out, but every single email should not be sales oriented, right? There should be the opportunity for people to click and, right, request an MCA or to say that they need to raise capital, right? But it shouldn't be the only message that's there. Have something that's interesting and engaging in there, and send it weekly with the opportunity to engage, right? But get that cadence going. What you want to be careful for is over, right? The biggest risk is over emailing somebody, because eventually they glaze over. They will throw a filter on you. They'll mark you as spam. As kind of some data shows here, that the number one reason for somebody marking you as spam and unsubscribing is too frequent emails, right? So there's a delicate balance there. Once a week is about enough, unless you're a retailer. We see in retailers, like I get I think a Dick's Sporting Goods email every single day telling me there's a once in a lifetime sale. So in your case, as an ISO, once a week should be good. Some people, again, this goes back to the opt-in component. 36% of the people who unsubscribe say they didn't subscribe. Now, whether that's true or not, but that happens a lot. I mean, we all have gone to conferences or whatever. We're all opened up our email boxes and go, how the heck did this person get my email? So the work we do on the front end to get people to opt in improves that dramatically, and then it works to elevate your ranking in terms of the email sender list. And then the content being irrelevant is the third highest reason, right? So if you're not sending something that the recipient values, they're going to unsubscribe. So make sure that you send in something that can be valuable, and you'll find out over time. By the way, what are they interested in? The more you interact with your merchants, especially the ones you've had success with, you'll find some commonalities there of what they like. So similar cadence here, when to post to social. There are certain times of the day. Analysis shows, and there's a big caveat on this one, some big caveats on this one, but certain data shows that 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. on weekdays is Facebook time. What that kind of means is people are tuning out at work, like they get to work, they got to get things going, they get through lunch, maybe during lunch they take a quick peek at Facebook, but definitely at the end of the day. You look around a lot of offices in America, not a lot of work getting done after 3 o'clock. It's just the reality. Twitter, for some reason, 1 to 3 p.m. on weekdays. I thought this one was fascinating. LinkedIn has a different cadence, right? In the morning, because it's a professional network, right? So first thing in the morning, 7 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. So people are probably checking LinkedIn as a work mechanism, right? Not as a distraction. Let me go see if I can just find something to avoid doing work. This is part of their work. Let me check LinkedIn, make sure there's not anything important there. And then again at 5 to 6 p.m. It's kind of like checking emails. But I thought it was interesting that they put Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday here so that people are more engaged professionally on the networking in the middle of the week than they are at the beginning or the end of the week. And that kind of makes sense. On Friday, they're tuning out. They're like, listen, I'm not doing anything on LinkedIn. I'm not thinking about work. I'm thinking about the weekend. I'm going to go party and so forth. And then Monday, you're digging out of everything. So that kind of makes sense, I guess. Important caveats. The composition of your network. So it comes back to that niche thing again, right? If you have a niche of dealing with auto repair shops and related businesses versus somebody who serves more retail, florists and coffee shops and the like, that type of experience, there may be a completely different cadence to the way that they interact with social. You'll figure that out over time. What I typically will say is, post multiple times during the day. It's okay. Or use a smart thing. You see down here at the bottom. Hootsuite in particular, and I know some of the other, I'm not sure what everybody uses for social media management system, but Hootsuite specifically, what's what I use at finservMarketing, it has an auto scheduling tool. It's awesome. You just put it in there. What it'll do is analyze your network and when they are likely online and so forth, and it'll publish your post based on the composition of your network versus you trying to figure out 1 p.m. or 5 p.m. or whatever, okay? So that's really cool. Buffer has some scheduling tools as well. Buffer's another tool. Most modern and the social media solutions that you'll be paying for will have something like that. So Hootsuite and HubSpot and the like. How often to post to social? Daily, at a minimum, in my opinion. Get something out there. It doesn't have to be original. Get something out there on the organic, and that can be sharing news stories, right? Make sure that you and your brand show up in your network stream at least once a day. Just do it. Post something daily, okay? Remember that merchants use social in the evening and weekends just like you do. I think that's commonly overlooked, by the way. And I mentioned, using email on the weekend, like business people or merchants are using email on the weekend, best time to reach them. But social media is using the evening and the weekends too. Like they're just like everybody else, right? They're not mysterious humans. They're sitting there watching TV just like you are, binge watching something on Netflix, and they're pulling up their phone and they're looking at Facebook and they're looking at Twitter. So do the same. Other little important thing to remember when it comes to organic. Right? Organic is stuff that you post without paying for, right? Without trying to boost it at all. Twitter uses a timeline. And what that means is when you post it, the things that you're seeing on Twitter are the things in order of when they were posted, right? Because Twitter really relies on being this real-time network. They are tinkering with it a little bit in terms of like whose posts they're showing you. The algorithm is adjusting that based on the people you interact with most, the Twitter handles you interact with most, the stuff that you're showing an interest in. But it's always going to be up to the minute or up to the second, frankly, in order in which it was posted. Facebook and LinkedIn are different. They are algorithmically driven. They will show you stuff based on what they think you're interested in and based on what your network is interacting with, right? Really, really important to keep in mind. And that's why you should be more engaging with your target on those. If you've got a list of merchants that you're connected with on Facebook or LinkedIn, make sure you're interacting with them because your stuff will show up more in their stream than it won't, right? Than others. I see it all the time. If you pull up Facebook, you'll see a post like, I've seen this post like 10 times over the last 3 days. Why does it keep popping up? Because it's somebody that you've interacted with before a lot, okay? Make sure you promote important posts to make sure the merchants see them, right? So boost some things. You can do that for as little as $5 a day to get started and start tinkering with it. So be sure to boost posts when necessary. And that's one of the things I think that Pearl does a fantastic job. They're constantly promoting posts so that even if you're not seeing their organic stuff, some of their paid stuff is showing up in your feed, okay? All right, how to be welcomed. So the persistence thing only works, as I've said before, if the merchant welcomes you, if they want to see your stuff. Otherwise, you're a pain in the butt. Keeps calling me, keeps emailing me, get off, it's leave me alone type of concept, unless you have created a scenario in which they like seeing you, right? So here's a really good way to do that, right? Identify their BANT. This is interesting. In the research for this webinar, I came across some great analysis on the concept called BANT, right? So it's budget, authority, need, and time frame. These are things that really help you connect with somebody and qualify them as somebody who wants or will need or desire to do business with you. And it's somebody that you will want to do business with. And that's really important, right? You want to do business with them because we don't want to just waste our time marketing and trying to sell to people who just don't have any business doing business with. So budget, this is under a normal sales scenario, they're talking about somebody who can afford to buy. Well, in your scenario as an ISO, it's somebody who has a business that is big enough, is generating enough cash flow that they qualify for an MCA. In talking to Pearl and the team there's a lot of businesses that just by the nature of their cash flow, they're not good prospects for an MCA. It doesn't work properly because of the type of business that they have. They don't have enough cash coming in to service the payback, or the cash is just too erratic. The cash flow is too erratic, so they just can't do it. So does this person have kind of the financial makeup? So budget being the structure of their business, the way that their business makes money. Do they have the authority? This is another one that we've, in talking with the Pearl team, that is really, really important. That the person has to be the business owner, right? It doesn't do us much good to be talking to their chief salesperson or the vice president of finance even. Somebody's going to have signing authority, right? And that's one of those oldest tricks in the book when it comes to sales. Let's make sure we can get the owner in there, the person who can write the check. In traditional sales, well, in this case, does this person have the authority to basically do an MCA, right? The need piece, need, greed, speed, and pain, right? Was the drivers for an MCA, right? You need an MCA, right? You're greedy, you got an opportunity to seize, right? You need it fast, it can't wait, or you're in a lot of pain, right? So need, greed, speed, and pain are their drivers, but are they likely to need an MCA now or in the future? You start to learn a little bit about that based on the structure of the business, based on the things that can happen. Are they a seasonal business or what have you? Are they going to want what you have? And then time frame. Having an idea when they're going to be in the market for your service is really important, right? Anything we can do to get a handle on when they're going to need it will work for us. So let's spend a little bit of time on that. So the discovery for BANT, how can we go about getting all those types of things? Again, it starts with opt-in. Regularly present merchants on your list with the opportunity to opt into your ISO communication. Subscribe to our email, right? Subscribe to our newsletter, call it that. Follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, right? On LinkedIn. Constantly present them. If you're an independent ISO or you feel comfortable, if you're working at a bigger shop as a salesperson, if you feel comfortable using your personal account to reach out and connect with merchants, do so, right? Any interaction you can have, get that person to opt into you and your brand works, right? Get that person starting to communicate with you, and then you can start to bring them into other things. Be useful to that person. Once they're opting in, be useful, sharing stuff that they might use, right? So if you've got a target market, again, of the auto repair shops, start sharing stuff about marketing for auto repair shops or trends in auto repair shops. Anything you see, you know, if you're surfing the net and you happen to see something about that's relevant to them, could be their industry, could be where they live, right? Could be general business climate, share that stuff. Get known as the person in the brand that shares interesting stuff. Engage with them, engage with the merchants, right? Interact with them, right? Via email, via social, click like on their stuff. Occasionally make a couple of minutes out of your day where you call people just to say hello and check up on them, say, you know, see if there's anything you can do. And then obviously create opportunities to interact in real life. I like regularly inviting people, so the invitation here, to opt into your exclusive experience. So that's enough, like once they're even subscribed to you, right? Like give them an opportunity to feel special. Sounds silly, but we all like to feel like we're in a little bit of a special club, right? You here as an ISO in this community, Pearl sees you as a special club, right? You're part of their top tier ISOs that they're interacting with. You're getting communication, inviting to this webinar here. They're not just doing it for fun, right? They're trying to help you and your business. That's something you can do for your merchants as well. And then I think what's really important here is to query, right? Ask questions that allow the merchant to self-select themselves for further down the funnel, right? You're asking them, as an example, to kind of declare the size of their business, right? How much revenue do they do in a year? How would you describe your business, right? How is your cash flow? Is it regular or is it seasonal? Start getting that type of information piece by piece, right? You can track it in your CRM, but you're getting them in there and you're constantly inviting them to get into these situations where they can raise their hand and say, yeah, I think I do need an MCA, okay? What we're looking to do here with all this is change your funnel, right? That traditional funnel here on the left started when we were just cold calling like crazy. The sales team is spending a lot of time qualifying and just running around like chickens with their head cut off, trying to just make the deal work. And then they're shopping it to Pearl Capital and other funders, and Pearl Capital gets it, and then Pearl Capital renders a yes or a no, right? In an ideal world, if we're doing our marketing efforts correctly, we're getting persistent marketing, we're interacting with people that have opted in, and we're filling the sales funnel with qualified leads. So it's not a mystery. When the sales team gets a lead in front of them, it's like, no, this person's pretty much ready to go, right? They want to talk to me. Let's get them into the hopper and get them to Pearl Capital and so forth. Okay, so benefits. We've talked a lot. We're getting near the end of the hour here, and I will stay online like I do in the past for Q&A. So if you have questions, please do ask them right here in the GoToWebinar panel. So benefits of persistent marketing: scale. There's only so many calls a sales manager, or excuse me, an individual salesperson can do in a day. There's only so many, right? And salespeople cost money. They need desks. They need a lot of training and so forth. It's difficult to scale a sales organization, right, and have them be effective, right? And there's also some consistency issues. So marketing will help you scale your efforts better. Spending more time thinking about how do I communicate and interact with my target market and get them in. You're going to make the messaging will always be consistency. We've all been on a sales floor where, you know, some people are awesome, right? People love talking to them for some reason. Then you got some sales guys who, oh my goodness, like, how does he not just get hung up on every single time he makes a phone call, right? There's a consistency, right? And that, as we talked about in last month's webinar, that can affect your brand, right? Marketing can make it so your brand is always consistent, right? Waste reduction. Anytime a salesperson has to spend time on a deal that was really going to go nowhere, and you could have known it was going to go nowhere from the beginning, it was a waste, right? If we can get people through the marketing funnel to sales, and that they've selected themselves and qualified themselves a little bit, that they know what they're going to be talking to you about when you talk, at a minimum, that reduces waste dramatically. And then my two little last ones here, works overtime and then works overtime, right? The two difference, right? Marketing works overtime. It takes that effort of touching repeatedly with the merchant, right? Not making it so that the salesperson has to call repeatedly over and over and over again. But marketing's doing that. It's doing the heavy lifting of interacting. And it's working 24/7, 365, right? It's always on duty, right? So those are some of the reasons why benefits for persistent market, some of the benefits of persistent marketing. So for the next month, real quick ones here, and we'll jump into the question. Barry, I just saw your question come through, and I'll get to that one in 2 seconds. Next steps, right? Invite your list to opt in. If you haven't done that yet, and I know we covered that back in the social media marketing, social sales for ISO's webinar we did, and I think it was the first one we did together. If you have not done that yet, please, 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 please do it. Update your upload your list to the social networks. Start inviting people to connect. Always on your signature and your emails, have your social media accounts so that people can click and follow you and so forth. Do what you can to get people to opt in on email and opt in via social as well. Just reach out to people because you want to have this ongoing communication. Brainstorm 4 things merchants on your list need to know. This is a huge thing that when I talk to anybody in the financial services industry about marketing and about posting stuff, whether it's email, whether it's social, the first hesitation and nervousness I hear is, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to share. I'm uncomfortable, and they feel like it's going to just take so much time to come up with something. Spend a little time. 4 things. What are 4 things that your merchants need to know that's related to your business? What do you think they need to know? Right? Now we're going to use those 4 things to send 1 email a week for the next month. And you can use those as themes for the week for your social media post stuff. Okay? Just 4 things. And then add a CTA on each email that brings a merchant to a BANT lead qualification form. If you don't have one, as I mentioned here in the page, Google Forms, it's free, it's easy. Create a form where somebody can go to and they can just enter their information, and BANT needs to, hey, qualify them a little bit. Anything I can do to get somebody to come to a website, whether it's your own website or online form, or they can enter in their qualification information and take some of the burden out of the salesperson's efforts and have them be a little more qualified, is a win. Okay, so let's get to questions here. I'm going to get down to the Q&A page. Again, if for some reason you miss your question here, send me an email, or if you're uncomfortable asking it and having me discuss it publicly, you can always connect with me on Twitter or send it to me via email. My email's right here. If it's a business-related thing in terms of hey, how does Pearl Capital handle this? Send that to Pearl Capital.